As someone who's been a pocket knife carrier for as long as I can remember, and to the degree that when I need to fly somewhere I feel kind of naked where I end up the whole time I'm there when I can't bring it with me, it's really surprised me over the last year or so to start finding that as I've carried a multi-tool in my pocket, it's really changed the way I thought about my folding knives and what kind of knives I would bring with me on a general basis. As a quick aside, just for some context, it's not my first multi-tool, and this isn't even my first multi-tool. I had a couple Gerber ones and a cheaper Leatherman one before this, and then I, at one point, like 3-4 years ago, got the Leatherman Charge. And I've often carried it in a backpack, but I never really got into the habit of carrying it in my pocket, and that's mostly because the pliers action is pretty stiff, and so are some of the tools. I mean, the tools aren't terrible, they've gotten a little better, but the pliers, despite my best efforts of working it repeatedly and lubing it and trying to WD-40 and solvent clean it a whole bunch of times, nothing I've done has really improved the action a whole lot. And people online say, well, that gets better as you use the tool, and I'm sure that they're right. But to me, this gives this a really unpremium feel that just affects how often I wanted to carry it. And I'm sure that pocket knife fans can appreciate that, because you could imagine that if you had a knife with really good action on it that is just a pleasure to carry, if you had another knife where the action was just really bad and you tried a bunch of things to try to improve it and strangely nothing you've tried has helped, it's hard to justify carrying that knife with the really lousy action on it when you have other knives that comparatively are just a lot more comfortable to use. And I felt that to a degree with the Charge. And so it's not that I never used it, but it was always like a backpack or in my car kind of tool, and then I would carry a pocket knife. At one point, though, I was drawn to the Arc when it was about to come out, because being on the free system, it has the buttery smooth opening that you can do everything with one hand. And as soon as I got my hands on it, that just felt so good and so premium to me as someone who's grown up with speed flicking knives and stuff where I like smooth action. This just attracted me to this tool more than the Magna Cut blade that so many people make a big deal about online. Nothing against the Magna Cut. I mean, it's a really nice knife and it does hold an edge super well, but that's not originally what made me want to check out the Arc the most. But ever since having it, I was like, all right, I'll use the pocket clip, I'll carry it in my pocket. And over time, I started discovering that it found its way into my pocket more and more often than any of my other knives. When I had been in the habit of you got 2 or 3 of them out on the dresser at any time, and each morning as you're getting ready, you kind of rotate. You're like, oh, I've carried this one for 3 days, let me do this one now. Or if I know I'll have some serious cutting tasks, I might pick one of those because they would be better for it, that kind of deal. But I started discovering that I was just picking this a lot of the time, and it really came to a head for me. It's the thing that really made me want to make this video. Recently, when I was visiting some family and I was helping them do some setup for my niece's birthday party, and it was in the span of 1 hour, I used this tool 5 times to get various family out of a jam and what they were doing. And I was so glad that I had just put this in my pocket that day, because my backpack was nowhere to be seen. And we're talking 60 people were at this party, in and out of the house. It was chaos everywhere. It would have been inconvenient to even go try to find my backpack. And it was because this was in my pocket that it started out, somebody was trying to blow up helium balloons, and the valve was torqued on so tight they couldn't get it. I pulled out the pliers and just fixed that for them. I went outside. People were having issues with balloons and needed to move where they were tied up. So I just pulled out the scissors and solved that problem. Did not want to have to go finding scissors in the house somewhere, and I also knew that in that kind of setting, pulling out a knife would probably make people uncomfortable. So it was really nice to just have scissors. They got a kick out of it. Shortly after that, people were trying to set up the tables with food, and one of the plastic barbecue sauce dispensers, the spout was all jammed up and they couldn't get sauce out of it. Got out the awl, gave it a little twist, bore open that hole a little bit, bam, we had barbecue sauce. Shortly after that, we were setting up a tent, and I caught my fingernail on something and it made a piece sticking out really jagged, and I was able to just pull out the file on this and fix that. And it just really occurred to me after that. I even made a joke to my brother-in-law, today is a Leatherman commercial. It really struck me yeah, this is all these times in a row that I haven't had to break stride or come out of the moment. I could just reach in my pocket and solve every situation that was coming up. And had I been wearing a pocket knife today, none of that would have been true. And it reminded me of a saying I had read in a forum at one point where somebody said, a multi-tool isn't just about the convenience it offers you, it's about how much more useful you can be to people around you throughout the day. And man, did that day like drive that home for me. And it just filled me with this sense of going forward, like every morning where I would look at one of these and it's like, yeah, it's been like several months since I've carried, you know, the Buck 112. Maybe I should do it today. But then I would be like, knowing my luck, today I would wear one of these knives and then I would be out somewhere and I would be in a scenario where I really needed the pliers or some other tool, and I'd be like, dang, you know, I really wish I had brought the Leatherman with me. And so I've kind of reversed what I used to do, which was like have a folding knife in my pocket and then put something like this in a backpack. Now it's like I have this in the pocket, and this knife, if I'm honest, even though it's a little smaller than some of these blades I would normally carry, it's plenty for cutting cardboard, cutting packages, cutting twine, cutting rope, most of the things I would encounter on a regular basis. And then if I'm in a scenario where I need more knife than that, then now in the backpack I might as well carry a big fixed blade, because that now offers something meaningful over the folders that I could not get with a Leatherman. And that's sort of the specialty circumstance that I would have with me in a backpack. And that's actually worked for me and made a lot more sense than what I was doing before. And so I just thought I'd share that in case anybody else has had an experience similar to it, or if you've ever wondered as a pocket knife carrier and you've been curious about a multi-tool. And again, like I said about the charge, it's not to knock the charge as a tool. It's a great tool. And I'm sure a lot of folks that use these, you know, in the trade or whatever, probably aren't all that bothered by the stiffness of the opening of this, and they don't think a whole lot of it. So I realize I might be in the minority on how much that bothers me. But man, for me, the fluidness of this just really makes a difference. And I know it's expensive for a tool, but of course you are getting the MagnaCut, and just to me it's worth it for the fluidness of a tool that does make me use it every day. And it has come in handy so many times for things that I've done even beyond that birthday party. I just, for right now, couldn't see myself going back. And so I just thought I'd talk through that for other tool and EDC fans out there who like to just jaw about this kind of stuff. That's been my experience. What do you guys think? Be curious to see in the comments what your pocket carry has looked like, what you've rotated in and out over the years, and what you think about what I said. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next one.